Hi, I'm Sorita Antaria, and I'm excited to be here today. And I can see our gorgeous soul family in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So lovely to have you all here. And thank you also for watching my 3-card pick. That was so much fun looking into the soul side with astrology and what it is that Spirit really wants us to focus on at the moment. And thank you, Lorianne, for reminding everyone about the potions. So I actually have my Vision Quest potion here. And I've made it a little bit of a lighter version. Sometimes I make it more intense. Sometimes I make it like a deeper blue. Today I've gone the lighter blue. So what we're going to be talking about with holographic voice imprinting, I really want you guys to have a look into the sounds of your voice. So we're going to be looking into energetic signature, and I do have a meditation planned. Unfortunately, I've had a little bit of technical delay, but I will be popping it up later today. So this show will actually be the information part of the show, and then later on today I'll have a chance to upload the meditation part, which I can't wait to bring you guys. I think it'll be one that you really love, and it will be one that you can come back to, scan yourself, and really detect things over and over again whenever you need it. And let's have a look straight into the show. So I do have a video to play to really get into the topic and to introduce you guys to the idea of why it is that I've done this show. So this was a message from Spirit coming through. I could start to, Spirit was starting to point out certain things within certain people's voice and even within my own voice. Hey, John, which of you're at the gym. Lovely to have you tune in. So yeah, let's get into it. And I would love to hear your comments on what it is that you notice in your voice, or if there is things that you notice in other people's voice as well. The other thing too, I have actually done a show with a man that is a storyteller. I'm just trying to think back. It'll be a few shows back, or actually it's last year, I think, when we did the show, but the title will be There Are Fairies in Your Voice. So a really exciting show. He talks about how there's different archetypes that go with different storytelling aspects, and there's people that like enchant and reel you in with their voice. And then there's those that have fairies in their voices, which are more kind of, up higher, uplifting. I was told that I had a mermaid in my voice, which is more kind of enchanting, drawing in, which, and some people have trolls in their voices too, which are very, very intriguing. Voice frequency and tone does tend to subconsciously imprint on other people in certain ways. So certain voices will convey deep feelings of peace and emotion and love, whereas other voices might actually irritate or convey anger or stress. So keep this in mind as we go through this show tonight. And I'm just going to play you this video to begin with. Let me pop this out, and I'm just going to hide comments so hopefully you can hear it all. Okay. So this will explain it.
Analysis of a person that has elephant man's disease. Well, we took this woman's vocal print, and here it is. And this is what it looks like on a computer. And look at this high point right here. See it up above the rest of the voice? Can you see that? There's a giant spike in this graph. We were able to look at that spike, and it told us exactly what compound in her body was causing this. And it was an kind of weird looking and doesn't fit with the group. Well, that's what an isotope is in layman's terms. We were able to look at this graph and see what that frequency was, and it was this isotope of calcium. We gave her the opposite of it. Now, elephant man's disease is incurable. Her particular kind couldn't even be operated on. It was inside the brain. It was crushing the brain inside the skull, and there was a spike of it in the optic nerve. She was legally blind. Ask her to describe her pain on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. She said her pain was 13. When we gave her this frequency as an antidote, as an opposite frequency, the pain was gone in about 3 minutes. She said it was the biggest shot of Jack Daniels she'd ever had. The calcium has dissipated. She's not blind anymore. And when she came to us, her doctor said, death is imminent. This is what we can do with this. We can look at your body and reverse disease. We can reverse the effects of medication. We can tell you what nutrients you need by looking at your voice this way. There's also another way to look at your voice. And this is a different kind of voice spectral analysis. This is another way that we look at the voice. This is a different kind of computer printout. And in this voice, I have marked some of the things that's going on. You still have this C, D, E, F, G, A, B, still have all the notes in your voice, but each of these notes have about 100 increments if you're going to use 2 decimal points. In this person's voice, they had A missing. Can you see that's obvious? And this one was very, very tall. There was too much D sharp. From these kinds of patterns, we're able to tell what kind of disease your body is susceptible to. In this particular person's voice, and this is one of the university professors we work with, we looked at the note of A, and we looked at the note of D sharp, and we could tell that he had a metabolism problem, and it dealt with hydrochloric acid. And we know that from some of the formulas that we've used. So we gave this man hydrochloric acid by frequency, not by pill, by frequency. And you'll see when the next print goes up, what happens to his voice. It's clear and clean all the way across. This is a vocal print of a healthy person. By frequency, not by pill. We were able to stimulate the body to build what it needed, hydrochloric acid. Now, this particular gentleman chose not to stay on the frequency. If he wanted to do that, we have a little box, a little machine that he could have carried around with him, but he chose to carry around a bottle of hydrochloric acid. So he pops hydrochloric acid, and that does the same thing for him, whether you do it by pill or by frequency. We cannot create elements, but we can create compounds. We can trigger your body to make what it wants, what it needs. I find this whole idea fascinating. What can you really do with this? Not only with this kind of metabolism can we look at it, we can look at all the muscle parts of your body. We've had people come to us that had muscles that were in stress, and we have been able, by trial and error, to put these ranges on the muscles. We know by testing people whether to make them weak or strong, what can happen with that. A lot of people who've had strokes are paralyzed all on one side, and that's been a great gift to us for them to come to us. I have all the muscles in the body mapped except these little ones inside the nose. This is a voice spectral analysis.
So how cool is that? I just had to share that with you guys. So, oh, hey, Jake. So what we're going to go over today, so Jake, you might want to watch the start on the replay because it explains exactly like the information behind why we're talking about this today. But I do have, this is from my college days, so very cool. We used to use tuning forks as healing frequencies. So when we're doing kinesiology and we're muscle balancing and say we're working with an emotion, what can happen is if there is an imbalance in the emotion or there's a negative hidden and trapped emotion, what we would do was see what muscles it would throw out of alignment in the body. And so sometimes your body will actually tell you that you need a sound healing. Other things that it can use in terms of frequency are things like flower essences. So providing the body with a flower essence can help to close out off that frequency or to bring things into alignment. Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I love anything that I get guided from spirit and then a video pops up. I know that I'm supposed to share it with you. And I saw, I think it was Rainbow Sun saying, about like this should be the future of healing. Totally agree. And this is what Edgar Casey talked about as well. So sound, color, and frequency all to be used for healing in future. So other things that we can also do, and I just want to play these for you guys so that you can hear them. So these are actually made out of aircraft material, or the sort of metal that they use for aircraft, so aluminium. So if we think about each of these, the musical scale, so let's just take the C note, for example, what that video was conveying that, let me just pop this down. What that video was conveying is that in each of these notes, you might have 100 little frequencies that are made up of one note. Now, what these voice spectral analysis devices can do is listen to a pattern of the voice, and I will hold up a website in a moment that you can send your voice print to, and they can identify what it is that you're missing. And we will get into looking into it a little bit to do with generalized views and sound. I'll go into explaining a few of the different finds. But say you're missing like one vibration out of the 100. This might represent, say, diabetes, for example. So things like this can be identified, and things that are not identified in, I guess, our allopathic medicine, or even in some of the alternatives, can be identified as a voice print. So my idea behind this show was really looking at how the body's holographic. So just as we learned in college, you know, with reflexology and things, you have a holographic imprint where all of the organs represent different places within the body. And the same with the acupuncture system too. So voice is another way that we can measure different imbalances that are within the body. You can also hear different calming frequencies that come from people as well. So let me just pop up a little website that I found. And for those of you that are interested in trying this, and I didn't have one friend try it, I haven't tried it just yet. But this place, which is soundhealingoptions.com, it talks about a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today. And you'll be able to see, it talks about like what is sound health, what is bioacoustic biology, what they do here. So they do vocal profiling. And so you can actually send your vocal profile to them as well. So you have here where you can do an assessment. There's lots of different shows and things on it. I just find this so interesting. So yeah, please go and check that out. And I'll just bring this back down. So just having a look into my notes today, and I don't know if you saw me smiling when a few of you said Rife machine in the chat, but with this, yeah, this is something that I used to work with. So I used to have a Rife machine. I actually just sold it last year because the technology is getting upgraded so fast right now that I didn't want to be left behind with my old giant machine when they're really coming down into more pocket size type devices. So with Rife machines, they usually have like a gas filled tube that is, yeah, it's like a plasma filled tube. So the same sort of, I guess, technology that Tesla would use. So this was invented by Dr. Royal Raymond Rife. So with this as well, I think there's a William in there. Don't quote me on that. I've just written it down a note. But anyway, he discovered that certain frequencies could target and eliminate pathogens, balance bodily systems. So they use electromagnetic frequencies to interact with the body, and you hold these plasma-filled tubes. And so with these plasma-filled tubes, what they do, you'll see like a current running through them. And when you hold them, you can feel different frequencies if you're sensitive running through the body. So with this, if you look, and I didn't bring up a picture of this, but if you Google Rife machine destroying bacteria, you'll actually see where there's a little bacterial cell, or say, for example, a parasite. We use parasite as an example because it's much easier to describe. So say you've got a parasite, and let me just we'll grab a shell as a representation. So you're hitting it with frequency. And what we're doing with Rife machine, it kind of works homeopathically. So when we have, say, perhaps like talking about homeopathic basis, you have what seems to be perhaps a poison. Now, if taken in a healthy person, this poison will produce certain side effects or vomiting, disease, illness, whichever it is. But given to a person that has those exact same symptoms, that poison in a vibrational homeopathic form, hey Lily, now becomes what is known as a healing energy. So it cancels out that vibrational frequency and brings the body back into a holistic wellness and alignment. So when we're using the Rife machines to destroy parasites, because some parasites like Lyme's disease have such a hard parasitic shell or coating that taking herbs and doing fasting and things like that alone can sometimes be a much slower way of dealing with disease and illness. So when we look into frequency, it can actually fully target that hard shell and break it up, and you'll see the parasite imploding or see the Lyme's disease imploding. So this is where frequency is amazing. So what I was looking into and why I'm doing this meditation a little bit later today for you guys is I wanted you to have a space of where we can use our intuition, because I love devices, I love tuning forks and all of this, but there is something within our intuition that has a deep sense of knowing. So if we can go in and identify it on an intuitional level and address that frequency, and perhaps consciously without awareness, identify hidden or trapped emotions around why we have certain imprints on our body, holographically, on our voice, we can perhaps start to change these and become conscious of the way that we speak, the way that we energetically run these vibrations and frequencies through our biocomputer. So keep that in mind too as we're talking about it. So looking into the emotional side of it, right, frequencies can work with this as well. But we will talk more around the voice imprinting side. So let me just see if there's anything else. Oh, radionics machines too. So looking into other healing devices and how frequency works. Thank you, Jake. So when we look into things like flower essences, and this one is a good overall, it's similar to Rescue Remedy. If you've seen that, this one is just the emergency. It's the bush flower one. This is an Australian one by Ian White. He makes the most beautiful essences. There's something a little bit different and magical. I don't know if it's just because I'm Australian and it utilizes different plants and things from our environment. But usually these are a combination of a few different essences. So the way that we make a flower essence, and there's so much fun. So you will need a crystal bowl if you're going to make your own flower essence. See what flowers or plants that you're drawn to. Ideally, you want to make sure that they're not poisonous. Oh, that's so cool, Mel. So say, for example, this is my crystal bowl and I have distilled or spring water within this. You want it to be pure. Then what you would do is put your little flower in there or a few flowers. And ideally, you want to sit that out under the sun, because the sun will vibrate and imbue the plasma energy into the flower, thus leaving a vibrational essence or spiritual and emotionally balancing quality within your little bowl. So then we take some of this, and usually you'll be adding brandy to this to preserve and to keep any mold or things like that out, any pathogens and things out. And then you can actually take that essence, and I do love to use my intuition when making essences, but you can also find online. Oh, that's awesome, Mel. Yeah, me too. I haven't done them for a while, but yeah, sun tea is based on that same sort of principle, but you can't leave it for a long time, whereas these can last a couple of years. I'm going to have some now as we're talking about it. What you notice with the emergency or rescue remedy in particular is this really helps from when we're in a state of shock, we're in a state of grief. Generally, you will take 2 sprays under the tongue or 2 drops if you've got the droplet one, and you'll take this twice a day. You don't take it near mint or coffee because these cancel out that vibrational frequency. So that's interesting in itself. But usually you will take it for 2 weeks. And with this, what we also find is that it takes 2 weeks to sort of shift out of that vibration or out of that stuckness. So that can also be really, really helpful. Let me see what else I've written here. Also, you can make, there's people that sell shell essences, which have the energy and healing of the ocean. Let me just go into my little drawer here, my little kinesiology drawer, and I will grab a little chart just so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I've got a few different charts and things like this, all my little reference guides that I like to use. I've got a whole bookshelf on it, but these are just my quick references that I have. So I'm just having a look if I've got one for essential oils here. So you can even use essential oils as frequency healing. You can also use color as healing. And This one seems to have disappeared. Anyway, I just wanted to show you, yeah, I've got a homeopathy one here. I don't know where this other one has gone to, but you can see here, they usually go into like plants and they break down different things. Yeah, it does seem to be windy here. We had a massive lightning storm that freaked Lyra out the other day. She was sitting there looking at like where this lightning's coming from, not knowing what lightning is. So let's have another deeper dive. So with the voice tone analysis that we just saw as well. Oh, bye, Tim. Have a great night. So with the vocal tone analysis, what it does is it must be scanning, looking for different frequencies or looking for where we're essentially lacking. So if we go back to the tuning fork and it can identify 100 frequencies within the one tone or within the one note. So it's definitely a lot more accurate compared to a lot of other things. And as you saw in the video too, this person experienced being pain-free, or as they described it in the video, it was like she took a shot of Jack Daniels and the pain was gone. So yeah, this is where I do love herbs and potions and different things like this. The other thing too is we want to look after our voices, because this is our spell casting, it is our broadcasting tool and device, and we're going to be using this a lot. If you are joining us on the weekend, let me just pop up my little window. So if you are joining us, which will be on the 1st of September, or if you're here in Melbourne or in Australia like myself, it will be on the 2nd. So we have the online event coming up and we will be doing the robotic or repetitive affirmation. So this is the chance for our soul family to get together, to chat, and we also will be doing a meditation. This meditation and this event will go for 90 minutes all up, roughly. We might go a little bit over. So if you have bought a potion, you will be sent this. It comes a little bit after, and it will be sent automatically. If it doesn't come through, just send me an email. I'm happy to share the link. But otherwise, we do have it for $48.88 Australian, so you can join us. And this is just to cover like hosting and all the back-end tech stuff that I've had to do for this. But yeah, so I want you guys to have your potion prepared, and I'm going to have a tea flask of potion prepared for that day. And I will also be having my smoothies pre-made. So after we exit that group event, we will be doing 16 hours of where we're repetitively or robotically affirming. So I want you guys to pick your manifestation that you want to work with. So it might be around, I have the most beautiful divine soulmate. I have the most beautiful divine soulmate. You know, saying this over and over again, we are going to use exactly the one affirmation for that 16 hours. So what this is doing is it's breaking down the walls, the barriers past the subconscious, and we're really programming this into the body, adding this alignment, this frequency. So you might want to look into some things that will help to calm and keep you in more of a soothing type point. I think I'm going to go with the Vision Quest on that day, just to keep me in that open and aware vibe. And it doesn't mean that you have to speak or say this outside. Oh, Lorianne. Great point. So today, August 26th, is another 888. So we've had, I think, 3 dates, and I remember you pointing them out the last time. Thank you for sharing that. So anyway, looking into what else I had to share, I just want to remind you guys that it is better to buy in a bundle. So you will save a lot more if you do buy in a bundle. And I also have sessions available too. So you can come through soulreader.com. This will take you over to Maison Jupiter, where I have the bookings available. And let me just bring this up. Also, please remember to hit that like, share, subscribe. And it's so nice to have a few more of you over watching the mystical soul readings too. So let me just come back to my screen. So yeah, what we're really looking at is trying to find the root cause between what frequencies we're missing. So what I would love you guys to do is record yourself, or if you've got something that's pre-recorded, because sometimes when we're trying to do things, we won't always get it to exactly the same as how we normally would talk. So even if you're talking to a friend, recording yourselves, chatting together just normally, and I want you to play it back or even ask if you've got someone close to you that's into this stuff. You could ask, what is it that you hear like with my voice? So where spirit started to point it out to me was certain people, I would notice phone calls and conversations, and what I could hear was certain tones. So one example, a beautiful person, whenever I would hear them on the phone, there was like a real monotone, like flatness. And what you could actually hear is depression within the voice. And this person actually does suffer from that sort of thing as well. So I just want you to notice with people that are around you. Thank you, Larianne. What is it that you hear within their voice? What is it that if you close your eyes, what is it that vibrational tone signature is conveying to you? So let me just get to my other page. So looking at things from a homeopathic point of view, and I'm just going to pop up another little banner for those of you that are wanting to go over to sell Alchemy Potions. I'm just going to pop this up so that you know the address. So with looking into our voice as a reflection from overall health, I'm just reading my notes. So this is an expression of our physical health, as we can see from that voice analysis detector. It's also to do with psychologically, we can read and see imprints on like what's happening. So looking at when we're listening to our voice or we're listening to the voice of others, looking at like with the vocal change, we want to be looking into the tone and the pitch as well, and having a look at the resonance as well. So this can sometimes reflect the underlying stress that's going on, or disease, illness, and imbalance within the body. Maybe pop in the comments if there's something that you notice within your own voice or within those, like if there's people that you just go straight away, oh, yeah, I can identify whether it's that sound of depression or whether it's someone that sparks joy as well, because we do have the positive and the negative attributes. And of course, we fluctuate in different situations and settings. So another thing that I've written as well is you will notice someone who has like a low energy or a weak tone. So sometimes this will indicate that there's fatigue going on, weakness, or like low vitality. What we see, if this is a persistent thing, because remember we've talked about in past shows that sometimes you'll have an incident happen, the emotions can carry forth and really lock in. It becomes a habit, and then after a while it becomes a temperament. I can see Shelley is saying, people have told me that I sometimes speak with a healing voice. They said that it's just different. And I love that. I wish that we could have like a little voice play button right now to hear all your gorgeous voices as well. And Lorianne is saying, plus how your voice, or plus how the voice affects you here affects your emotions. Yeah, so when we hear things as well, it definitely does create a different emotional imprint as well. Oh my gosh, Britt. Yesterday I found a big earthquake and volcano was on the horizon because pains in my legs and freezing cold inside. 6.9 earthquake in Tonga. Wow, they're waiting for a volcano. Interesting how different people receive messages and intuition in their body. So that's amazing that you know that that's what that is for you. And Rainbow Sun saying, I can hear the aggression in a person I know. Interesting, isn't it? And animals are also incredible around, sensing this side of things. And I love our community. So yeah, definitely, Britt. Jake says, wow, Britt, just watching about that, sending you love and hoping you're safe, definitely. And I can see Amy Rose saying, I can always feel through someone's voice, their intention and what they really mean, the energy behind what they're saying. And as we've said in other videos on communication, the actual words that we're speaking may be just 10%. So there's so much more that's conveyed in body language. Larissa also saying she can pick up aggression in someone's voice. One thing I've noticed, which is funny, having worked with children when I was younger, it's interesting sometimes how, and even with my nieces and nephews, actually, this is a funny story. So my nieces and nephews know me as the soft auntie, and I'm the one that's like more sort of like into imagination and magic and, you know, all of that stuff. So they're all really like very touchy-feely, huggy, gorgeous with me. They're so beautiful. I love and adore them. And it's funny. I remember walking into the back room at my parents, and all the kids were like really noisy and like jumping around, a little bit chaotic. And I said to my siblings, I'll just go into the back room and I'll just like settle them down. I'll just tell them off. And it was so funny. I'm like, all right, you guys, you better just like quieten up. And I know that I'm not taken seriously in that way. So, my sister-in-law, who's beautiful, goes in and she's like, oi, cut it out. So she has much more of an assertive tone. So that's one thing I've noticed within my own voice is sometimes I'm a little bit too soft or a bit sensitive. So we can hear this as well. And interesting, Mel saying she can hear blunt tones. So yeah, it's interesting how kids are like really good at picking up different things too. So yeah, I've also written here, high-pitched or strained voice. So with this can sometimes be anxiety or nervousness and tension and things that are emotionally, that there's stress happening underneath. So when we see this chronically, it's more sometimes related to chronic anxiety disorders, even hypothyroidism too. And we know that this area of thyroid and hypothyroid are really around throat chakra. We see this come up in some of the tarot as well. So where we see a monotone, flat voice that never deviates from, I find monotone so hard to do because I'm quite pitchy, but with this might indicate a lack of enthusiasm or depression, as we were talking about before. Yeah. So true, Rainbow Sun. They just come and hug me, and they're just adorable. They're so cute. So yeah, with the monotone, this sometimes, if there's a persistence with this flatness, it definitely could be associated with depression or emotional blockages. So we want to emotionally get to the root cause or the bottom of that. You guys are so sweet. And I can see Lakeside Laura, love to come into this loving chat. We love having you here. Thank you for joining us. So another one too to look for is where there's a hoarseness or a roughness within the voice. And we all go through this. Sometimes it's where we've got exhaustion or we're burnt out as well. So when we can detect hoarseness, and we know those people that sometimes just have that hoarse voice that doesn't seem to go. So this can also be a sign of inflammation, irritation, or even infection around the vocal cords. This is where it's really good to have potions or teas. This one is just a local made one, elderflower throat coat singer's tea. So things that can help coat and soothe the throat. And I have talked about this before. So this one is from Nourishing Herbs. Teas by Priscilla. It is a local one. I don't know if she sells online. She probably does. There's a Facebook page. So it says elderflowers, linden flowers, lemongrass, rosehip, aniseed, ginger, cinnamon, slippery elm, licorice, and calendula. So this is that particular tea. So yeah, with the hoarseness and things too, you want to make sure that there's nothing chronically going on respiratory wise or with laryngitis or anything sort of, to do with smoking or things that could affect the lungs or voice nodules and things too. And also breathiness. So I actually don't mind a breathy singer. Do you guys like breathy singing or sort of soulful singing? But sometimes you'll hear a breathiness. This is very good with, is it ASMR? Like the sound where people talk into the microphone and you hear that breathy sort of sound, and they might be, doing the tactile things. So like a lot of TikTokers. So yeah, with this, where there is like that breath that overpowers the sound, and that's why, with certain microphones and things, you'll have like a guard or a cover to reduce down that too. So with the breathiness, this can also be sometimes to do with lungs and to do with like respiratory type things. Sometimes there can also be different background issues around like asthma, chronic bronchitis, and things can also come out and manifest through a breathy voice. Yeah, Mel, you're on the same page. Love breathy singing and ASMR. Yeah, there's something magic to it. So I think sometimes there can be underlying illness and disease, and other times there can be a little bit of mystique and magic and a little bit of sexual soulful coming from like the depth of your soul energy too. So variations in pitch. So with this one, when we hear, and I would say I'm probably a little bit more in, variation. This is unusual variations in inconsistency in pitch. This sometimes can be neurological. I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. Neurological stuff, sometimes we're open to a wider array of things on a deeper quantum level. So there would be positives and negatives to each of these things that I'm reading out to you guys. But it also can relate to hormonal imbalance, which I definitely was going through that more last year. So getting that back online. So the other thing is it can sometimes be related to thyroid, which I have had out, maybe not had it taken out. I had it out of alignment and it was doing something opposite to what it should have. So sometimes we are enigmas, not a one size fits all system works for everyone. But yeah, it also can be to do with just our brain controlling our voice too. So I noticed this within a few channelers as well. So yeah, I would say I'm more kind of predisposition to the channeling side of things. Excessive nasal resonance is another one. So sometimes we'll hear like nasal. You might even hear it within me sometimes because I do have a broken nose that has a deviated septum still from my basketball days. But yeah, you do notice sometimes like where someone will have more of a nasally tone. Fran Drescher from The Nanny. Do you remember that show in the 90s? She had that real kind of like whiny, sort of nasally voice. And so did Janice from Friends. Do you remember that character that Chandler dated? So this is sort of more that excessive kind of like nasally type sound. So sometimes this can be, we'll easily identify this. So let me know if you have heard those sort of sounds too. But this can sometimes represent chronic sinus issues, nasal congestion, allergies. But yeah, you want to make sure that if it is persistent, you maybe go to an ear, nose, and throat specialist as well. I looked like a ballerina on the court, Laura. I did not say I was a good player. I remember in one of my games leaping and my family going, that was like watching ballet. That was more of a dance move. And yeah, I could jump really, really high. So I think it must have just been dance skills on the court. For some weird reason, my last game, I actually scored a lot of points and decided just to like leave on that note. But yeah, it was quite comical. So another one that we have too is sometimes certain people will talk rapid, and yeah, it was hilarious. Listening to people that we talked about that sort of monotonous tone and like the monotone type thing. But yeah, when there's like a monotonous, this can reflect sometimes stress, agitation. It might sometimes be associated with bipolar or even hyperactivity. So that is an interesting one when we're seeing something that's more monotonous. A lot of us tune out when there is a monotonous tone as well. So looking into voice fatigue and things like that as well. We talked a little bit about that in teas and things, just seeing, trembling and shaking within the voice. Sometimes you have those people that are maybe even like a whisper, and it's like they're afraid to put themselves forward too. So having a look into voice projection, and sometimes we'll see where people are so loud and overbearing, and they might be like that on a personality level. It might just be like a little bit too much at times, or we might have to sometimes spend a little bit less time around those that are a little bit more enforcing their voice. So really looking into this and what does your voice convey about you? I want you to have this in the background of your mind as we're talking about this. So excessive volume fluctuations as well can sometimes also be related more homeopathically to bipolar or different things like that, or kind of personality changing and things. Let me also see, sometimes hyperactivity can be associated with rapid speech, as we talked about, to do with the magnetic side of things. We went into NLP. I think that was last week we did that show. What we noticed, oh, Jake, that is such a great point. I'm going to go into that in a second. Thank you. But yeah, we talked about the different tones. So a visual person might speak a bit faster than someone who is perhaps database needing the facts and data and the time. And yeah, so you will be able to sort of look into someone's more their preferred learning style with this as well. You can tell a lot about someone. And this is just such a fascinating thing to research and to kind of pull together in this way. So Jake is also saying people sometimes that speak with a baby voice in public. So you may have had that partner that talks like a baby voice. I don't think this is what I'm going to do. But yeah, what we notice too is sometimes there will be underlying trauma with this person. And they do say with women that do the baby voice to their partners that it can be underlying trauma to do with father figures and things as well. And I'm just seeing Lakeside Laura says, I have a neighbor that's a retired teacher. She projects a Lauren Bacall voice across the lake. Wow. I would love to hear that. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I would crack myself up too much laughing about that. This is interesting what Sue was saying. I was shouting, but no sound was coming out and I couldn't move. Maybe I wasn't quite awake. Interesting. Yeah, sometimes we can get sleep paralysis. This can be sometimes ETs or entities or other interdimensional beings can sometimes be at play in situations like that. And Brett Marie, the show is so fascinating. So Rita, thank you so very much. You're so welcome. And yeah, Jake was saying as well, definitely looking into, what is he saying? Yes, that was what I was thinking, trauma that manifested. So yeah, this is what I want you guys to listen for. And most of our trauma happens before the age of seven. And this forms our blueprint and our character that we take out into the world. So with someone that has this more sort of like aggressive type tone, perhaps they needed to fight for themselves early on, or they had to fight to be heard. And I've noticed a few people lately that have a voice, and what I can hear within the voice is that they've not been heard in their life. And there's this real stress coming across that they're almost holding onto their breath and they're trying to get all of the words out because no one has ever listened. And just to give you an example of that, because that is a harder one to describe, but have a listen. And even listening to your children, listening to your partner, seeing what it is that you can hear behind the voice, what it is that may be imprinted in childhood. So I'm just having a look over emotional delivery too. So with this, looking into like if the voice is cracking or breaking, or if they're like got a tremble to the voice as well. Sometimes this is when we're conveying things that have happened to us. I noticed a tiny little bit of this in Dr. Jonathan Reed, who we were so lucky to have on Mason Jupiter on the Galactic show. I could hear the emotional delivery with his story, recounting his ET abduction, or not abduction experience, but the ET interaction with the alien. You could hear that it was emotion, that he has been impacted with his nervous system with this. So that was a beautiful example of someone deeply conveying emotion. Let me see if there. And Amy is saying, I think the voice is at least a combination of internal trauma, childhood experience, environmental conditioning, and your own soul and energy. Definitely. There's a soul imprint that conveys. And this is why sometimes certain voices will speak to our soul or easily calm and relax. And it's part of their mission. So you can kind of hear even part of your mission or even parts of your astrology that come through with this as well. And Lorianne is saying, well, as humanity, we show our blueprint on everything that we think, say, do, or even intentions that come through. Now, going back to the show that Julie and I did on AI, what's interesting is voice cloning happening. Now, I don't think that this can perfectly clone our soul intentions and vibrations and what we imbue into the world. I do think it is more of a tonal type thing. Yeah. And Rainbow Sun also agreeing, yes, could hear his emotion when expressing his experiences. He was so sweet. And he also would love you guys. Maybe if you want to go back into the chat from that show, he really wants to answer questions. So if there's any questions you guys have about Freddie, his experience, experience, the technology, or anything that just intrigues you, if you want to go back into the Maison Jupiter. And actually, speaking of which, some of the comments have been deleted, and I know that we're definitely not getting the views that I know that we've had. So he has had some beautiful background people check, and the views that YouTube is saying is definitely so far different to what we're seeing in internet traffic. So you might even want to go maybe onto my Facebook page where we've posted the show, and he's gone in and put all of the photos from his experience. So it will be, you'll find it on my timeline. It might be a little bit further down, but yeah, you can pop into that. Any questions that you have, and yeah, Jonathan would love to answer as well. And let's have a look and see what we also have written. Lack of expressiveness. Sometimes you just don't get people really tapped into their emotional. So this can be where there's an emotional suppression or numbness and different things as well. Let me just see if there's anything else that I want to go over. I think we've pretty much covered most of the pitch stuff in that I wanted to go over. Does anyone have any questions that you want to ask around holographic voice imprinting? Because I'll start to talk about the next part that will lead into the meditation that we will have later up today. And yeah, definitely go and check out my Facebook feed. You'll see that there's one post where we're talking about the show, and in the chat stream of that post, the feed, you'll see Jonathan's pictures. So maybe put your questions in there so that both he and I will see them, and I'll be able to take that data so we can use it for a future show. Let me just see. Yeah, definitely, Jake. Go and check that out. It is just under 2 hours. It is pretty interesting, the feelings and emotions that also come up with this. And I can see Lorianne saying, so do you see us healing one another with our voices? Definitely. And even if we think about I know it's a Disney movie, but The Little Mermaid, when she has that enchanting voice, there's a healing that comes. So what I really wanted for this show is for us to see where it is that we're lacking things, if there's a trauma associated, or if you can tap into a hidden or trapped emotion around why we're missing certain tones or frequency or inconsistency. So yeah, have a look into your own. I did talk about my experience with my nieces and nephews and me not having an assertiveness within my voice. So that is something that I'm working on, is being more assertive and more good. It doesn't make English. We're still in Mercury retrograde, but being better with boundary setting. So it's something I've been working on the last year or so and getting really good at it compared to what I used to. But yeah, so having a look into this in the meditation, I will take you through where we scan and we look for anything that comes up. So perhaps between now and then, and it might come through for your tomorrow morning, it just depends on when I can actually get the technology to work to upload the show. But yeah, with this, have a look into a voice recording of yourself. So maybe take out your phone, put a voice memo app or voice recorder on, and just maybe pick up a story and read the story so that you can hear it. Or say, hello, what a wonderful day it is today, and see how it is and what your tone is, what the emotion that conveys. But yeah, what I want to do as well is in that meditation, you're going to receive some frequencies and things as well to help to fill the gaps, but it's also your intuition. So I want to teach you how to use your intuition to do this so that we can do it without tools, and you can come in and recognize when there's times where you're missing perhaps a certain frequency. Now, what's interesting is when we look into politicians and different things, a lot of them will receive coaching around like neuro-linguistic programming, and they will be critiqued on the way that they deliver things. So if we can do a little bit of that, but on ourselves for the healing side, not for the domineering politician side of it, that'd be really great. So let me see. Yeah, definitely have a look. It's going to come up later today. There's just a few issues I've had tech issues. So let me see. Jake is also saying, do you think there's a difference between programming your water with thought versus your voice? That's an interesting question. Should we pull some cards on that just before we finish? Let's have a look and see what is coming up from Spirit. I'm going to the Mythios Tarot. Such a beautiful deck. don't forget, like water would be receiving the tone and the vibration. That's why I think it's better to handwrite if you're sticking a message on your water bottle as opposed to printing something out from a computer, because there's vibration in everything that we do. And even with singing, if you sing into your water, it's a different frequency compared to speaking. So I'm going to flip these cards over. And the message we have is the Hanged Man, the Nine of Cups, the World, and the King of Swords. Yeah, I would say if we get the voice running smoothly, and then perhaps like we look into, what it is that we're conveying with this. So if we were to shout, "I love you" in an aggressive tone, it would hold a different frequency compared to if we're singing "I love you" into the water or into our potions. So yeah, that's what we were just saying, John. Good point. So you can also write the words on the water. So whether it's even with your finger and you're in the ocean, you can imprint it in that way as well. So the cards that we have are these. So the Hanged Man with the Nine of Cups. Now the Hanged Man is my matrix breaker. So maybe we're breaking the matrix bit by bit, doing these shows and talking about these different topics and really looking at how we can use and influence our magic out to the world. And yes, definitely, Laura, autism brings up a whole nother subject. So some of the monotone and things that we talked about might describe some of the things that those people are experiencing, or the kids. But we see Nine of Cups, which is Pisces and Jupiter. This is growth, expansion. So maybe perhaps we're also inviting in new tones, and we're starting to extend our range as well. So we have the World card and the King of Swords. So it does suggest to heal and work with closing off any loops or patterns and things that you may have had. I love that, John. So John said, "I wrote love, peace, gratitude, grateful on my gym copper water bottle." So it's also great to teach this to others. So true. Oh, it must have been fairies. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense. So it does look like that we are best to first work on our tones and things before speaking, or perhaps even singing things, because it's a different vibrational frequency as well. Anyway, I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't yet got your invitation, your ticket to come along to our event, it will be on the 1st of September. And let me just bring this back up. So it's on the 1st of September. What I want you to have ready before then is I want you to have your smoothies, perhaps pre-prepared if you're going to do a bit of a smoothie fast with us, and your teas, maybe perhaps in a little thermos or a big thermos, depending on how much you're drinking. I will be taking bathroom breaks, just to let you know. But yeah, we're going to have a beautiful introduction and conversation with our soul family, where we will be able to video chat with each other and see each other and connect different cities and things. So if you have ordered a potion, you will get sent this invitation shortly after. Unfortunately, with the distance of it coming from Australia to US and Canada, you might not receive your potion by then. So I have seen some people it takes 2 weeks, some people it takes a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. Over here in Australia, usually within the week, you will receive it if you've ordered before the Friday. But anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. And it's always beautiful to have you all here. And I look forward to hearing your comments in the meditation when it comes up later on today, which will, for those of you in the States and Canada. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I have my CIA show coming up. Let me just bring up the Facebook page. You don't want to miss this. We are going to be diving in to unlocking the CIA gateway technique. So it says this will be on the 29th. So what are we now? So that'll be on my Thursday, which is your Wednesday if you're in the States and Canada. So 2 days away. And it will be coming up just after I'm on Mace on Jupiter as well. So I will see you guys twice in that day. Anyway, I love you all very much. Thank you for the love in the chat. And I look forward to seeing you really soon. Bye.